In the last 5 years, the cost of running this light bulb has doubled, while the average price of coal, which is the primary source of electricity in Australia, has halved. The only other time you pay more for half as much are those stupid little snack-sized packets of chips that are almost entirely full of air. These days, some Australians find themselves in the position of having to choose between food and electricity, with household power bills rising way faster than CPI and inflation. But the truth is, your power bill is not real. So how is power generated in Australia? Let's break it down. Mining companies extract coal from the ground, which they deliver to power companies who burn the coal to make steam. Steam spins a turbine which generates electricity, which travels down these wires to our homes, providing a charging point for our Tinder access devices. Swipe left. Shut down application. Now, we've already established that the price of coal somehow doesn't impact your bill whatsoever. So you naturally assume the next greatest impact would be how much electricity you use at this end, when it only represents 20% of your bill. Another 20% goes to the retailers, who handle new connections, issue bills, and train their call centre people how to be dicks.
Oh, hi. I was just wondering why our latest power bill is so high, because we've been away for a month and it's winter now. I was just wondering if someone could come out and check the meter.
Oh, absolutely, sir. We'll get right on that.
The lion's share of your power bill sits right here, the poles and wires that carry electricity to your home. This represents 51% of your bill. And just to be clear, this is a fixed charge. It doesn't matter how much power you try and save, this figure isn't going to change. The remaining 9%, according to 2012 Treasury figures, is attributed to the carbon tax, which is now gone.
When this bill is passed, the government estimates that power prices will go down by 9%.
Ha! Great news, Tone! Let's take a look at the state-by-state power price comparison breakdown. And as we freeze play here, you'll see there is indeed a noticeable decrease, if not a flattening of sorts. Full credit to the coalition, it's a remarkable achievement. And as play continues, we now see it in context of power prices over the last 5 years. Alright, back to the 51%. And I should mention that this is just an average. There are places in Australia, particularly rural and remote areas where there's not much competition, where that can get as high as 60% of people's power bills. Now, the reason for this massive and mysterious fixed charge is simple. Energy companies over the last 5 years have spent over $45 billion unnecessarily upgrading poles and wires and authorising themselves to charge it back to customers with interest. In 2005, the government set up the Australian Energy Regulator, which surprisingly was controlled by the state governments that owned most of the electricity companies they were tasked with regulating. So the regulators were regulating themselves, which explains some of their early logo designs. It was this regulator that approved the $45 billion, that's billion with a B, of network upgrades and the right to recoup that money from customers plus interest. Now, the interest takes the form of borrowing costs, which they claim to be 10%, but were actually in reality more like 3 to 5%. That's like 7% of pure cream with a capital C. So to summarise, power companies aren't paid based on efficiency, productivity or reliability. Their income is based solely on the assets they build and own. So they are incentivised to continue spending unnecessarily and charging it back to customers. So now that you know that you are in fact an underwriter of this crucial infrastructure upgrade, would you like to see an example of what your money has bought you? Behold, the $30 million Rathmine substation in the Hunter Valley. Constructed in 2012 and featuring bushland vistas, a state-of-the-art chain-link perimeter fence, and so vitally important to meet the skyrocketing energy demands of our current crisis, that it lay dormant for 18 months and was only connected to the grid after a Senate inquiry. So what's been the result of all this? Well, 2 years into the $45 billion infrastructure spend, electricity prices rose by 40% and continue to rise. And over the same period, power companies' profits rose by 67%. And the pressures this places on Australian households can't be overstated. In New South Wales, the rate of disconnections due to non-payment has doubled since 2009. All this in the face of the surprising revelation that electricity demand is in fact decreasing. As the argument over asset sales is bubbling away in New South Wales, it's veritably boiling over in Queensland. Call it selling, call it leasing, call it Campbell Newman's Jedi hand wave of obfuscation. All it does is shift the focus from service provision onto profit making. And if in 99 years' time we're still paying off poles and wires, that's like being on a 100-year payment plan for an ab roller you bought while sitting drunk in front of Demtel Direct. So what hope is there for Australian households? Well, the dream of self-sufficient off-grid power is fast becoming a reality. Solar panels only generate power during the day, and the only way to have power at night is to store it using batteries, and until recently, that technology has been prohibitively expensive. Introducing PayPal founder, inventor of the Tesla electric car, and private space explorer Elon Musk, who has recently announced plans to build a $5 billion factory that will produce lithium batteries on a huge scale. This will lower the price and improve the technology's accessibility. Community-based power projects are popping up all over the world, and here in Australia. Like Hepburn Wind in Victoria, a community co-op that raised $10 million for a renewable energy source that now powers their entire community and feeds power back into the grid using just 2 wind turbines.
And I must say, I find those wind turbines around Lake George to be utterly offensive.
Correct.
And
correct.
I think they're just a blight on the landscape.
And the people you're talking to are paying for them.
Here are the wind turbines that Joe is referring to. And here is an example of mining's impact on the landscape. Okay, so our music choices were a little prejudiced. But if you watch that and you still don't like wind turbines, a French company has you covered. They've recently developed a wind turbine that blends perfectly into the natural landscape by disguising it as a tree. So clearly something needs to change in the energy industry. And right now, a fresh round of infrastructure spending is in the process of approval. And this isn't a partisan issue. Both sides of politics have made bad choices and failed to oversee industry. But even though we're all currently being teabagged by the power companies, it doesn't need to stay that way. The near future will see a localised model where power is generated and consumed in the same place. So talk to your local member, ask them what their opinions are on electricity prices and asset privatisation, and tell them how you feel. And if you like what we've done here, we'd love to do more of it. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel, like us on Facebook, or swipe right.